Today I will be refuting against my opponent, Zach. His main claim was that standardized testing fails to show students' true competency. His secondary claims are that standardized testing lacks depth. Using standardized testing to determine ability leaves out too many details about what the student is capable of, and that standardized tests can be unreliable. Let me start off by saying that my opponent presented no statistics and very few evidence to back up his claims. In his first claim that standardized testing lacks depth, my opponent stated that standardized tests often ask superficial questions, do not require deep thinking or creativity, and present narrow curriculum. My response is that according to procon.org, standardized tests are not narrowing the curriculum, rather they are focusing it on important basic skills students need to master. According to a study in October 28, 2005, teachers from a Minnesota school district said that standardized testings have positive impact, improving the quality of curriculum and raising student achievement. In his second claim, his second claim was using standardized testing to determine ability leaves out many details about what the student is capable of. My opponent stated that standardized testing usually affects how meaningful learning takes place in the classroom, and tests with limited subjects remove other details. Okay. My response for KidSource Online, standardized tests help teachers and administrators make decisions regarding the instructional program. Using results from these tests, teachers and administrators can evaluate the school system or a school program. So it's not just, it's like helping the students. Like if they're not doing good on a certain subject, then they know that they need help on that subject. Or maybe a lot of students need help with that subject. In an article titled The Pros of Standardized Testing, standardized testing provides students with better feedback on their own level of knowledge and skills, motivate students to work harder in school, and recognize what they need to study. Some of my reasoning includes that the purposes of standardized tests are not to hurt students, but to help them see what subjects they need to work on. My opponent used evidence from a Harvard Graduate School of Education, quoting Professor Cortez, that tests are not designed to summarize all students and what schools can do. But in that same article, he also said that I am not arguing that we should stop testing. I think it's very valuable. Standardized tests, his third claim was that standardized testing can be unreliable. My opponent stated that underlying bias such as cultural and linguistic is also present in testing conditions, and test takers' mental condition vary from day to day. My response, according to procon.org, was that standardized tests are reliable and objective measures of a student's achievement. Without them, policymakers would have to rely on tests scored by individual schools and teachers who have a vested interest in producing favorable results. Multiple choice tests, in particular, are graded by machine. Therefore, they are not subject to human subjectivity or bias. He stated that foreign students have a disadvantage, according to the same article, that standardized tests are inclusive and non-discriminatory because they ensure content and testing conditions are equivalent for all students. Former Washington, D.C. school chancellor Michelle Rhee argues that using alternate tests for minorities or exempting children with disabilities would be unfair to the students. You can't separate them, or you cannot separate them and try to create two unequal systems, one accountability and one without. This is a civil rights issue. Some more reasoning is that there is no cultural or linguistic bias present when it comes to mathematics because it is the same in every language. There is no bias in multiple choice because it is graded by machine. In conclusion, standardized tests are not narrowing the curriculum, rather they are focusing it on more important basic skills the students need to master, help students and administrators make decisions regarding the regarding the instructional program and reliable and objective measures to student achievement. If standardized tests such as the SATs were not effective in predicting the future performance of students, why would majority of the colleges in the country require them? Almost 2/3 of the U.S. colleges take SAT scores into account for the applications. Thank you.
All right, as you're setting up the structure, which you do pretty clearly, you do have a general response that there's a lack of data from the advocate, and especially statistical data, to support any of the inferences that are being made. I think you want to come back to that when you're presenting your own arguments to contrast what you have shown with what the advocate has presented. The first couple of arguments mostly talk about the benefit of standardized tests to the teacher, to the school system, to the ability to make decisions. They're very generic in the way they're talking about those benefits. There's no statistical information on this point either, so I'm not sure that you're going to be perceived as being fair when you challenge the advocate's general claim about statistics when you don't provide any, especially on those first 2 points. If you had some statistical information, for instance, that shows that when they discover that there's a problem in a particular area, they're able to raise test scores the next year, for instance, if there's a district that had low scores in English or math or social sciences or some other field, and they discover that, and then they get special aid or assistance to advance and improve, or that the schools develop programs that are designed to fix those kinds of things, and you can show examples of that, I think that that would be a lot stronger. You're kind of talking about it in a very generic way, which I don't doubt is probably the case, but so is the advocate talking about it in a very generic way, and that's why you want to be able to have a more concrete response on that so that your argument's more convincing. I think you did a good job citing your sources through the presentation. At the end, you did have a statistical reference as to the number of schools that accept the SAT, for instance, as a way of measuring incoming students. I thought that was fine. I also think, however, that you ought to point out that standardized tests are not the only means by which students are evaluated, and the advocate seems to assume that they are, and I think that you've missed a whole line of reasoning based on that there are, in fact, of course, accomplishments, grade level performances, standards that people are supposed to meet that are not on the test per se, but like being in class and having to give a speech. There's a pretty good example of something. All right, thank you.